Hey guys, Dr. Hampton here. I got my buddy, Dr. Terry Mason, right next to me, and we are here to have a post-podcast live session, a little session just to talk a little bit about what we talked about during the podcast that we just recorded, which will be released in your podcast app store on Friday, which will be the 20th of this month. So I'm really excited about that. You already know Dr. Mason, I'm sure, but if you don't, he is one of our physician leaders in the state. He's been with the Cook County Department of Public Health for years, leading the largest, county, really. I think it's the second largest county in the country, right, Dr. Mason?
Second or third.
Second or third, right there. So, and then tremendous responsibility. And I just wanted to bring him along. We talked a little bit about low carb versus low fat, which is more of a vegan approach. And we're very aligned in terms of the goal, which is to stop using this standard American diet as your way to be healthy because it's not working. So we wanted to give you some other options. So I think that'll be a great podcast episode to enjoy. He's the first guest I've had on my podcast who wasn't a low carb enthusiast, more of a, even in a way he suggested that he may be, so it'll be interesting to hear his take on that during the actual episode. So I strongly encourage you to check it out. For those who don't have an app, go to drtonyhampton.com and click on the podcast link and you'll get a chance to get it there as well. So during this interaction, what I want to do is spend a few minutes just understanding what is a vegan diet? And maybe, you can share, Dr. Mason, just the basics of, what does that mean? And maybe why you think is a good way to eat. So let's start with that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Hampton. I really do appreciate this opportunity to talk with you and your listeners. And hopefully we'll be blessed in some small way to enlighten people. My job is not to try and convince anybody of anything. I think you have to convince yourself. And what you need to do is make sure you use the right data and the right information to make that decision. So the way I think of it, really simply put, I look at veganism as just eating plant-based food. That's it, just plant-based food. It's not hard. It's some people would even say that it has its origin biblically. Some people would say that there are a number of things that we should do, and eating plants is one of the things that, if you think about it, most of the biggest, strongest, most muscular animals on the planet are herbivores, or they eat plants.
That's true.
So whether they're gorillas or elephants or giraffes or hippopotamus or any of these.
That's the paradox for me. It doesn't make sense. How could you get that big eating plants? It doesn't make sense.
Well, it does make sense because everything you need is in the plant.
I like that.
Everything you need is in the plant. And so people have this misnomer. Where do you get your protein? I said the same place that the cow that you killed and slaughtered to eat their meat got their protein from. Those things that you killed and ate for meat, they don't eat meat. And I'm not anti-meat. Just be clear about that. I'm not anti-meat. I'm just pro what I think is life, because everything you eat in the animal-based world is dead when you eat it. Plants are one of the few things that you can. Well, some people eat things that are alive in the animal world, but especially when I went to China, I saw a lot of that. But I think that the plants offer us things that you can't get from other sources. Phytonutrients, for example.
Could you explain what a phytonutrient is for our audience?
A phytonutrient is basically, think of it this way. How many of you have ever seen a rainbow? And you see a rainbow because what happens is that the water vapor actually bends the light, and you begin to see the different color spectra that are in the light. One of the areas you can't see is the most powerful wavelength in the light, and that's called ultraviolet. It's actually black, and it is the most powerful of all of the wavelengths. Now I'll leave the racial piece to the side for a moment. But the other parts of the spectrum, the reds, the greens, the yellows, the purples, and what have you, you see those reflected in the animal kingdom. And one of the and we already know that we should be attracted to those things, because as we look at them from far away, we can see the beautiful colors. You can see those deep purples. You think about that. A a a, a deep purple blackberry or blueberry, it's a blueberry, is in the sun all day long. And in that sun, it is absorbing that energy, which is what plants do. They absorb the energy. And the beautiful thing about eating a plant, particularly, you don't have to so-called cook it. We eat it raw. We call that a salad. And so you then can take in these these chemicals that create those colors, the greens, the yellows, the reds, the what have you. And those things contain chemicals that actually help you or protect you from some of the inflammation that you get from eating other things.
Mm-hmm. What about my carnivore friends say, you know, Doc, I don't have two stomachs like a cow, so I can't break down all that cellulose and stuff that's in a plant. I prefer to eat an animal. What would you say to a carnivore that has that kind of a perspective?
Well, you know what? There's some people who have a logic stream that I don't try to counter. So,
shots fired. It's all good. I appreciate that.
I told you, like I told you on another show, I was a guy that ate a steak every day.
Right, that's right. You did say that.
Until I had a heart attack.
So you can relate.
So I can relate, yeah. And I mean, there's something about that. And I tell you, I had my special steak seasoning, my Montreal steak seasonings that I use and whatever. Yeah, I ate that. I don't eat it anymore.
Right.
But okay. and then I found that as a result, you know, I made a covenant with my cardiologist. And so I told him, as long as, you know, I wasn't going to have any more procedures, I was going to eat right. And I wasn't going to eat anything that I believed.
That's right. I just thought about something. I see a couple of people. First of all, Marcia Smalley, she's saying, I remember you from Stroger County Hospital. So she remembers you from there. And I know Dr. Pete, who's on the Couch Conversations with us, said he was under your leadership as a student doctor, I guess, at the time when he was learning his craft. Also, Curran Siebert, she said she takes Metamucil. So I want you to comment on fiber. But before you do that, I want anybody that's live with us now, I want you to think about being a vegan. And again, that means you don't eat dairy. You don't eat animals.
Right.
So
you eat your embryos.
Right. So I want everybody, if you're willing to comment. So imagine if you're a vegan, and I'm curious what food item would you miss the most? Let's just say you're willing to go there and do what the good doctor is saying. I'm just curious, what food item would you miss the most? Would it be a hamburger, for example? You know, I'm just curious. So, and as people are chiming in on that level, tell me, first of all, your thoughts on fiber in general, and then Metamucil secondarily.
Well, you're talking to me now?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, fiber is critical. Fiber is that part that doesn't get digested. It's soluble and insoluble fiber. The insoluble fiber is the fiber that is really important. And what you have to understand is that the largest host defense system you have in your body, that is the thing that defends you from all kinds of invaders, is actually your gut. It is the largest thing. And to have good gut health means that you should have a good, healthy variety of bacteria that grow in your gut. Now, those bacteria, you know, they're only dangerous if you got a hole in your gut and it leaks out into your belly wall. But other than that, those bacteria are absolutely essential for you to create the kind of defense that you need from other invaders and other things that happens to your body. So
Yeah.
it's really very, very important. And so these bacteria, they also make other things, others constituents that you need for
Hmm.
in your body. So it's very important. Fiber is critical, and fiber plus water and the what we call the peristaltic action. That is, think about when you squeeze your toothpaste out of your, especially when all of it's almost gone. You really have to squeeze it hard to get it out. What you
Right.
do with your fingers, you compress it and you move it down the tube. That's called a peristaltic wave,
That's
and
right.
that's what you're. So those y'all that eating chitlins, what happens is the way when you the reason it smells bad because it's what's in there. I mean, I
Hmm.
clean those things, so I
Don't,
already know.
don't hurt me now. Don't hurt me. I got some folk that like chitlins on this.
That's all right. My sister just left. She just got to cook. But what happens is that muscle, that round tube squeezes, and then
Mhm.
it moves down.
Right.
Okay. So as you're eating, it's continuing to move down, first down and out of the stomach into the first part of the small bowel, and then out of the small bowel into our almost 30 feet of the whole tube. Now, the thing is, you want it to continue to move through. As it gets to the colon, all the water gets sucked out, all
Hmm.
the additional nutrients get recirculated. And then if you have the fiber and enough water left, you will go and make a deposit in the toilet.
Hmm.
It's called a bowel movement.
Right.
If you don't have enough fiber and you don't have enough water, you're going to find yourself having some difficulty making those deposits on a regular basis.
That's fair, and I definitely can relate to that. I've learned a lot about prebiotics and probiotics, and when I think about prebiotics, I think about those fiber type compounds that feed the good bacteria. And a lot of people don't realize that you need bacteria. In fact, you have way more bacteria in your body than you have human cells. So they are really running the show. You just didn't know it. So I think that's really important to understand. And I think it's important that you be comfortable with this idea. So I appreciate that. I'm looking at the comments. Someone, Marcia, says she'll miss hamburger. And then Corin, she says she'll miss, it looks like a taco she put down there. And then Tony Holly, she said she'd miss cheese. I was waiting for cheese. So and she says she has diverticulosis and several diverticulitis episodes when you get the little pouches, and no gallbladder, no hiatal hernia. So anyway, I think cheese is a tough one. So when you think about your journey, Doc, are there foods that you kind of wish you could eat more of? I mean, I know that you're kind of in a rhythm with it now, but are there certain things you kind of crave every once in a while?
I'm going to tell you, these are all psychological constructs for the most part. And you can make yourself miss something really bad to the point where you'll create that as your justification for eating it.
That's right.
And my feeling is if you want to eat it, just eat it.
Right.
You don't have to create any justification. Just eat it if that's what you want. I tell people, I've been eating plant-based for many, many years. But I always said, and I said on the last show, that if I really wanted a piece of meat, I'd eat it.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? I just eat it. But I just haven't had, it's just not there.
It's not a priority for you right now.
No, and I'm telling you, I've got my Impossible patties on right now.
Okay.
As we're talking, they're boiling.
Impossible. They're called Impossible.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
But what it does is we have a lot of foods that try to help those people who are still making that journey. Who still want the taste and the texture of the meat products they used to eat. So there are a lot of them out there. Some are better than others. Some have a lot of salt in them, so you need to look at it. Some are made with different kinds of plant substitutes, so you need to take a look at those things.
Yeah.
But I think that the major part, this is all a psychological issue. Okay? It's all psychological. And yes, some of the foods that we eat have created a taste that we long and miss. And so you just have to make up your mind that this is what you're going to do, and you do. And then I would say nobody ate more meat than me. The only meat I didn't eat was pork.
Mm.
And I stopped that in 1969. But other than that, I ate, most of all the things. I mean, I like chicken, I like steak, I like my filet mignon, I like all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came time for me to make that change, you make the change, and the change starts here.
It starts up here. That's the battle. No matter if you're doing a vegan, low fat diet, low carb diet, it's all up here. And I do want to acknowledge the question from Linda Johnson, and she says, "Is there anything you can do besides taking blood thinners to thin the blood?" Now, obviously, I'll help with this a little bit. If you have a medical condition that requires blood thinners, like a clot in your leg or to your lung with a pulmonary embolus, and you've had more than one, you're probably going to be on that blood thinner for life if you've had, because it's a risk benefit. So the risk of not being on it is probably greater. Now, having said that, most clots and clogged arteries come from things that we've talked about previously, diet, and inflammation. So if you're, a lot of my patients take turmeric supplements, they take garlic, things like that reduce inflammation and things like that. So I just want to just give a little bit of a response to that question, because blood thinners is life and death stuff. So you have to be very careful. But at the same time, I think that is a way to kind of measure it by saying, you have to talk to your doctor. Is this a lifetime medicine or not? So I just wanted to just respond to that question and make sure that, and I want to say shout out to Dr. Pete Thomas. He's doing a shout out right now, and he's one of our doctors on Couch Conversations with the Doctors. And he asked the question, where does the data stand in terms of, how the diets improve outcomes, vegan versus keto? And I want to reach out to him. And one thing I'm going to do, Dr. Pete, is I'm going to share in the podcast show notes the data that I have that supports a low carb diet. And then if we have some, and we definitely have some data out there for vegan. So if you have anything you want to share with me, Doc, we'll share it in the show notes so that we can make sure that information is available. And I think the message that we want to share today is that you can definitely get to the target in multiple ways, but you can't do it with the standard American diet. So we have to figure out how to move away from that diet and look at how. And then he also asked, bottom line is you will lose weight if you are in a calorie deficit. So yeah, what's good about the diet I promote, which is low carb, is that you tend not to be hungry. So you're going to have a calorie deficit pretty much. But the macronutrients that you consume matter. And there are some things you put in your body that will more easily convert to fat. And what's your thoughts on calorie deficit, Doc? Just in terms of what's your experience been with that?
Well, I think when you go to a plant-based diet, you don't really have to worry.
Yeah.
You can't possibly eat more food.
Right. That's right.
You just can't get it in.
Right.
The one thing that you will not feel, because it has fiber, and because it creates bulk, and because it does all of those things, and because it is not devoid of those substances or chemicals that your body needs, you will then not have some of these cravings that you otherwise do. Right. So you can't. I mean, if when I do my church things at Trinity, if we ever get back to doing that again, one of the things I do is I take a few menus. I take a menu from Burger King, a menu from McDonald's, Subway, and a couple other places. And I say, okay, here's what I want everybody to do. I'm going to give you 2,500 calories for the day. Okay. You choose whatever you want off of this menu. And it has, because I give them the thing that has all of the calories, the nutrition guide. So you can have, these are the total number of calories you're going to have. I won't even limit you to fat or anything, just calories. You just pick whatever you want off these menus. And then I have another group, Dr. Hampton, where we just have a list of vegetables and the caloric intake of the vegetables. And I said, I don't want you guys to come up with 2,500 calories from just the vegetables. And so we have them then report out. And what happens is in some of the fast food joints and some of the other non-plant-based places, you get to that 2,500 calories very quickly.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you just try to do vegetables, fruits, particularly vegetables primarily, you would have a mountain of food on the table, and you still wouldn't get to 2,500 calories.
Just
now, obviously, if you add fat, if you add oils and stuff to it, but I'm just saying, if you just took kale, or you just took spinach, or you just took collard greens, or mustard greens, or turnip greens, do you know how many greens you'd have to eat to get to that?
Yeah, it would be an incredible number. And I agree 100%. Having lived that way, I agree. It's you can pretty much just eat and not worry about it. And I can't argue with that logic, because that's the experience I had. How did your family react? I know it's been a while since you started this journey, but when you became a vegan, did your family push back at all?
No, I mean, they push back. If I was one trying to force them to do it, they push back.
Right.
But if we have things, if I invite, if I have the kids over, and that's what I mean, my kids for the most part, my grandson especially, he's really sort of on it. He actually he goes to school, and they actually do have organic meals and all that stuff at his school. So he's accustomed to eating pretty good.
Okay.
He is my biggest thing with him is pizza, and that's because the industry pushes this so much. And as we talked about in the other show, and I want everybody to look up casomorphs.
Right.
Look up the casomorphs.
Could you spell it?
CAS. Hold on, I got it right here.
Okay.
Got it right here on my phone. I'm getting like the young people now. I can.
Get out of here with that.
I have to get to look up stuff on my phone.
That's right. That's right.
And it was on the page. I'll look it up, but I think it's CASOMORPH.
I figured that was it. Okay.
Yeah. Casomorph.
Well, okay.
And I want you to look it up, because that's why you can't get rid of the cheese. That's why it's so hard for you to get rid of the cheese. The dopamine, it has a dope thing that attaches to the dopamine receptors in the brain. Okay. One of the breakdown products from milk, which is what cheese is made from.
Yeah. So that's excellent. So, and when I remember, you've been in multiple documentaries, I think you said up to 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, which ones? I know Forks Over Knives, and which ones that you actually were involved in?
Forks Over Knives, Game Changers, Diet Fiction.
Okay.
And the other one's called Food Cure.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. So
Food Cure is about Dr. Gerson's diet.
Oh yeah, I remember. Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, you said he popularized the rice diet.
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with that. So again, I learned a lot about these guys when I was doing my during the years when I was vegetarian. Learned a ton. So I remember on the Forks Over Knives, I think it was a lady who was diabetic, and she talked about how she had to adapt to eating plant-based, and she thought it would be hard, but then her taste buds changed. So do you find the people you talk to who make this change, they pretty much change their taste buds and it's not so hard anymore once that happens?
Yeah, the thing is that, like we said earlier, it's all mental.
Yeah, it's a mental thing.
It's a mental thing. If you don't want to do this, you won't do it.
Okay.
If you want to do it, you will do it. And what I say, don't think of it as all or nothing. When you're starting, I tell people, just add whatever you're eating, just add more vegetables to it. Mm-hmm. I don't know ribs, whatever it is you're eating, just add more vegetables to it.
Okay.
And then as you go, just keep adding more vegetables, and then start crowding that plate out, moving more of the meat off of the plate. Okay. And really begin, and take the vegetables you like, assuming you like some.
Right.
Use those to be the ones that and it doesn't have to be stuff you have not eaten and don't like. But if you like collard greens, you like, it make a good pot of turnip greens someplace, even if you got whatever meat in it. But if you got the greens on your plate, start there.
Right. Just start there. Yeah. I
Start
like that. Yeah. You have to be gradual and give your body a chance to adapt. And I'm a big fan of that. And I'm totally right there where, and you really feel like, because a lot of people say, where am I getting my protein from and what vitamin deficiencies am I going to have? So do you take supplements? Because
yes, I do.
Okay. What's the basic recommendation for that?
Well, first of all, I take the supplements, the D3, because I think everybody needs to take D3.
Yeah.
Especially all Black people need to take D3.
Got that right.
Whether you're a meat eater or whatever you need to eat, get more D3 because you don't get enough.
Okay.
How much meat you eat and you don't get it. The other thing that I do also supplement is B12, although I could get it from yeast. There's yeast that I could get it from.
Okay.
The other supplements that I will also take is I'll take a little zinc. Okay. And and I take certain multivitamins just to because I don't always, you can still not eat enough being vegan, believe it or not.
Right.
And then because sometimes you have more time than other times to prepare meals.
Okay.
The good thing about eating vegetables is that you have to cook. You have to cook, and you have to, and if you don't want to cook, that's fine, but you can make great big salads. Great big salads. And I do that, and I put all kinds of stuff in my salad. And I love spinach. I don't like it cooked at all. I will not eat it at all.
Interesting.
Okay, but I will eat a bowl of spinach raw in a salad or natural in a salad.
You like that cow I talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's the way I do it. So you find what things work for you. And here you got to remember, you're going to change your mind.
That's right.
And if you tell your mind, if you tell yourself, I don't like it, I don't want to do it, you won't. Just stop. You won't. You have to decide this is what you want for yourself. And you've got to make that decision because this is the only body we get. And we have to be good stewards of it. Okay. And your body will tell you if it's getting what it needs. If you got to take laxatives, if you think you need to take laxatives, or you're taking something to help move your bowels, or you're taking one kind of medicine or another, you might want to think about it. You might want to think about how changing the way you eat may impact some of the things that you suffer from. For example, constipation. Right.
Yeah, it seems like that would go away. Couple of more quick questions. So if I'm I can't afford to go to Whole Foods and be a vegan, doc. That being a vegan is going to cost too much money.
Don't go to Whole Foods then.
That's all I have to do.
Don't go to Whole Foods. Go to Food for Less. Food for Less is a Kroger store. You can get reasonably good produce from Food for Less. Don't put up any excuses. When you want to do something, let me tell you something, man and lady. When you want to do something, you find a way.
That's right.
And when you don't want to do something, you come up with the first excuse you can not to do it. So don't play me. I know I've been there.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that.
What about, do you think people who, let's just say you're not as internally motivated, is there value in being like in a support group, like a Facebook vegan group or something to help people along? You think that's overrated, or you think those things add value for people?
It's always good to be with people that do what you do. Okay. Or you be with people who do what you want to do, because that support is there. And then you don't feel like an outsider, because when you're with your counterparts, and I tell you something, people ask me, where do you go out to eat? How do you do that? And what happens is, I tell you something. Some of the best vegetable-based meals I've had has been at steakhouses.
Get out of here.
Absolutely. At steakhouses. I go to Capitol Grill most places now, because so many people are opting for vegetable that these chefs in these very good restaurants have become very creative and putting together very good. I mean, they'll come out and tell you, no, you can't have that soup because we made that soup with a beef broth. So we don't want you to, we'll make this for you. Or they'll make, You know, I like mushrooms. So they got some shiitake mushrooms and different mushrooms, and they'll come with something with some rice. It's amazing. So no, I whenever we go out, I don't change where I'm going to go, unless it's I don't go to McDonald's or anything like that. But
Right.
if we go to a real restaurant, you will find most of them. And steakhouses, I'll tell you the other thing, they have great amounts of fresh vegetables because they use them as sides. You know, the cauliflower, the broccoli,
That's
all
right.
of that stuff. So no, I mean, you can get it. You just have to ask for it.
And and like you would suggest, it don't have to be on the menu. If it's a decent restaurant,
That's right.
and you don't see the chefs take pride in that. So you can't do that at McDonald's. One of the questions that popped up is, you know, does a plant-based diet help with GERD? But if you want to comment on that, I will say this: I did make a video about GERD about a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about a couple of things like something called DGL, which is a type of licorice, and that helps to heal the gut, the mucosa of the esophagus. And then I also talked about melatonin, which was a shocker to me. But melatonin, when they do studies, in about 8 weeks, if you take it at the end of the day, it helps to tighten the lower esophageal sphincter. But I mean, I would imagine that a plant-based diet would help because you're probably going to lose some weight and do things like that. Have you seen a lot of people do well with their reflux when they shift to this type of diet, Doc?
I do not know. I must admit that I do not take care of patients, and I have not taken care of patients.
Right. So you're not really seeing, right. That's a good point. I guess I'll comment, and I guess what I'll say is, since I do, absolutely, when you lose weight, which will happen with this type of diet, certainly with a low carb as well, when you reduce that belly fat, you take the pressure off the stomach that's being pressed upon, and the lower esophageal sphincter. In the video, I talk about how it's like pressing a balloon. If you press the balloon, the top and the bottom part is gonna kind of open up, and that lower esophageal sphincter will open, and then the acid from the stomach will go into. So Tonya Holly, I think I would check out that video on YouTube. In fact, she's watching on YouTube right now. Once you're finished with this, just type in GERD in my name, and you'll see that video. And I think it'll add value to the question that you have. So I know we're going to wrap up because we got what they call those burgers again? That's getting ready.
Impossible.
I don't know how I can forget that. So Impossible Burger. So we don't want to mess that up. And so
it's boiling right now.
Oh, it's doing its thing. And what I like about how you cook it, and you described it during the podcast, you're not going to burn it up because it's got its protection, which is the onion, you said, which is, and it's kind of got some moisture.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. That's phenomenal. So, you know, again, I want to get you to your dinner. Tell me anything, just two more things. So you're big on trying to provide access to food in the community. So I know you mentioned, I think I heard you on another podcast talk about, you know, the farming and how people can get stock, and could you talk a little bit about that program, and is that accessible to everybody?
Wrapping up, right, and getting ready to wrap up for the season.
Because it's just a seasonal thing, right?
Yeah, it's seasonal because the food is grown on the farm. So the farm is in Lansing, Michigan. It's part of the project of the Vernon Park Church of Christ and Church of God. I'm sorry, and but it doesn't matter. Anybody, what we do is people can buy a share, and the share will entitle you to get food, a full share, which is like, I think it's about $400 for a whole year, for the whole growing season. But you come every other week and you get food that'll feed about 12 people. And it's food that's, I mean, you've not tasted this stuff. I mean, when you come and pick up your food on Saturday, that food was picked on Friday, and you're coming to get it on Saturday. So I mean, the onions, I mean the collard greens, the turnip greens, the mustard greens, the tomatoes, the bell peppers. We even have we also have our own beehives out there. So because the bees are necessary to fertilize all the plants, but then we got our own honey, our own organic honey. None of our food is grown with any pesticides. There's no herbicides. There's none of that stuff that's out there. So what you get is fresh and just wonderful. So the tomatoes, the bell peppers, we just planted a whole group of garlic that'll be ready for next year. And it's and if you want to, you can go to Vernon Park Church of God and go to Mother Carr's farm, and that's where it started. But it's really grown. Next year we want to buy another farm that's contiguous with this one to expand the program. Last year we grew probably about 500 or 600 watermelons. Wow. We had yellow meat watermelon and we had red meat watermelon. So this year we plan to grow at least 2,000. Cool. Which is why we're expanding the farm. And so I will, Dr. Hampton, I will let you know when we're getting ready to put the shares on sale. Okay. We're actually even looking at maybe a drop-off in the city, so people don't have to come all the way out to Lansing to pick their food. Yeah. But I tell you, it is an amazing.
How long of a trip is that? Is that how long of a drive? How far is that?
Okay, let me tell you where it is. Do you know how to get to 159th Street? Mm-hmm. Out the Bishop Fort. The next exit is where you get to 394.
Gotcha.
So you take 394, get off of Glenwood Dyer Road, take Glenwood Dyer Road to Stony Island, and take Stony Island over to Joe Orr Road.
Okay,
and
good.
You can't miss a big grade. So it's not that
well, a family of 12. I mean, you could really do some damage with that investment. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good.
Oh yeah, man. There are a lot of people who say, "Look, well, I'll just buy a half share." I said, "Okay." Yeah.
Right.
But I'll let you know when we get ready to put the shares on sale for next year. Okay. Because I suspect they're going to go pretty quick. We this year almost doubled the number of people that we have from the year before.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got a great farm crew. These brothers and not only that, but we bring returning citizens out to help us with the farm. And we also have students that come out from the different schools that are out there, because most of us have never seen where food comes from.
That's right.
They don't make and that's the problem. We don't make the connection with food. That's what industry's done. It's take us away from that connection. So you think your food comes from the grocery store.
That's right.
That's not where it comes from. That was where it was brought to.
That's right.
Okay. So your food, the reason is so important because we are all from the earth, and the things that we eat of the earth help us more than things that we eat that walk on it, fly over it, swim in it, or crawl on it.
That's right. So I think those are great messages. I think anytime we connect with earth, anytime we actually cook our own food with the family, there's something about the connections that occur during those times. So particularly, why not learn how to do this stuff now? We're all social distancing and being safe. So you get that muscle, that cooking muscle, strengthen that. And I think if you do that, you'll find yourself literally. I joke because I think this past week I cooked an additional meal I didn't have to cook because I had already had leftovers. But I'm so I'm in a rhythm with cooking. I just come home and cook. And it's just what I do. So I think that once you get into a rhythm with it, it'll change your life. So we'll probably wrap up with that, Doc. I want to get you back to your Impossible Burger. And I want you to
what's really interesting about the cooking, the point you made about cooking, I'm from 1 of 10 kids. And one of the habits that came from being like that, I have big pots. It's just me, but I still have
really
big pots. I can show you my pots, man. I got official pots.
I need to invest. I have not done that. I need to invest in those types of.
Oh man, because you know what? I have to be careful because I still will go to the store, and since my kids, my grandkids, they all eat greens. They all eat, eat all that stuff too. And when I cook, all I got to do, because I cook too much.
Right.
I know how to cook a little. When you're 1 of 10 kids, you don't know how to do anything.
Right.
A little. You have to do it a lot. So and being the middle kid, and my mother was one of these women that said, "Look, you go out there and get one of them fancy tail girls that can't cook. Don't be coming back here.
Watch yourself."
So you know what she believed? Everybody that eats need to know how to cook.
That's right. And I don't disagree
You
with
gotta
that.
cook what you eat.
And you save a ton of money. You're going to be healthier, and it tastes better when you cook it yourself. It just does. You
And
can
when
taste
you
the
get good at it, man, it don't take no time.
It don't take no time. It's just a
And you
habit.
can set a table, you can create a very romantic environment.
That's right.
And you know, and I've learned to do some baking. I've learned to do some other stuff as time goes along. And they got all these resources now that are out here online. On you can go and learn how. You can go to recipes.com and they got anything you want to cook.
And watch the video. In fact, many days I'll have the computer that I'm talking on right now, and I'll have it in the kitchen, and I'll just literally just play the video, stop and play it. And you just, I mean, and so anybody that think they can't cook, that's just, you just haven't tried.
Right. And I got my best vegan, vegetarian chili recipe from All Recipes. And now I just put my own hit on it too.
Right. You just do your own thing.
Because cooking is chemistry.
That's what I'm talking about. It's just like being in the lab.
Chemistry. It's just chemistry.
That's right.
Base. It's you know.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, what kind of final thoughts you want to leave with the audience before we wrap up? Any final comments you want to leave?
Yeah, I would just say, you know what? You're the most important person in your life. You're the most valuable asset you have. And you would take care, you insure your car, you make sure you take it in for all of its checkups and what have you. And yet we neglect ourselves. Yeah. So stop doing that. Love yourself, act like it.
Yeah, man. And it's such a gift when you've been given this great gift. You think about the people we've lost, and I pray for all those souls. The best protection from COVID-19 is a healthy body. And Doc already mentioned vitamin D. That's something that we all know, zinc. But I would encourage you, if you love your family, let's keep them healthy. We're going to bring the food to the door, and we're going to do some potlucks. Do not come in the house. And then you can get on the phone and do a Zoom or a speakerphone prayer for your dinner, and you're going to stay safe. And then hopefully in the new year, we'll have a vaccine and we'll be safer. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's important as we plan for the holidays that we are smart about it. And it's okay to do it that way because we have to be here for the next holiday. So I thank you, Doc, for
thank you, Dr. Hampton.
Your inspiration. I'm trying to follow in your footsteps, and you have laid the foundation. And to have a local hero like yourself to model after is just wonderful. We'll keep doing our thing with the Couch Conversations. Anybody that hasn't checked that out, come on Facebook with Danny Davis's Couch Conversations and Nikki Harvey, and we'll do our thing with them continuously. So everybody have a great, safe night, and we'll continue. By the way, I'm going to make a video about peptic ulcer disease and do some natural treatment for that as well. And that's my goal, is to look at a medical condition and think about what can we do beyond pills to heal. And with that, Doc, you have a great Impossible Burger tonight. And I'll be, let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I have to go in there and slice up my my tomatoes and all my other stuff. You know?
Life is good, man.
Man. Life is good. God is good.
Amen. So do your thing. Everybody have